All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for joining. It should be recording now, so we should be good there. For those who just joined, if you want to take a second to introduce yourself in chat, we would love to know where you're joining us from. So location is great, but also if you're one of our employer partners or a student or a community member or however you're connected to the program, we would love to know. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Shannon Sheehy. I am the manager of strategic partnerships for Code U, which is a fancy way of saying I manage our careers team. I have a really fabulous team of career coaches and tech employer specialists who help our students when they're job ready. So we help prepare them for their first tech roles and help kind of launch them into the tech world. One of the ways that we do that is by hosting Demo Day. This is, I believe, our fourth Demo Day that we've hosted. This has been a really great way for us to highlight some of our awesome graduates and to show folks in the community what we're doing. So I know our program has changed a little bit over the years. You may have been involved with us at the beginning or in some different stage, and now you can see what we've been up to as of late. A quick overview of our participants for today. So these are folks who started in our May of 2024 cohort and they wrapped up in mid-December. We're going to see projects from our different pathways. So right now, those are web development with JavaScript, data analysis with Python, and software development with C#. We also had a couple of what we call second level offerings. So offerings that are for folks who had already completed one of those pathways. So we have QA and UX for those second levels. And we also have folks from a lot of the parts of the state of Kentucky now, which is really exciting. So I know some of you may have been first connected to us when we were Code Louisville and just served the greater Louisville area. We now serve, I believe it's about 2/3 of the state. We are in greater Louisville, Southern Indiana, greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky region, the Eastern Kentucky region, pretty much all the counties out that way with our partner SOAR, as well as Central Kentucky and Greater Lexington. So we have presenters from all over those regions as well. A quick overview of what we're going to get into today. So we have 8 fantastic presenters. They're going to have about a 5-minute presentation for you. After those presentations are done, we are going to open up to breakout rooms. Each of our presenters will have a breakout room, and you are welcome to join one or as many as you would like with the remaining time that we have to talk more to those presenters. We know that we are on limited time. We're not going to keep you here forever tonight. So if you don't get a chance to talk to someone you're interested in, don't worry. We are going to be sending tomorrow a recording of the event that is also going to have a folder of resumes so that you all can get in touch with folks. You can also always reach out to me. It's Shannon@code-u.org, and I can help you get connected to either one of our tech employer specialists, one of our presenters, or whatever you may need from our team. After those breakout rooms, we will bring everybody back just for a quick wrap up and thank you. So please feel free to hang out a little longer if interested, or if you're done after the breakout rooms, that's totally fine as well. A couple of fun announcements and just some program things we wanted to share before we get into the presentations. Over the summer, we celebrated our 1000th Code Louisville job placement, which is really exciting. We've been in the region since 2015, and I've been involved with the program as a student and then staff member since that time. So that's been really cool for me to see as well, and it's been very fun to celebrate. And we're now at over 1,300 job placements program-wide, which is just kind of mind-blowing. On my first day as a staff member, we were at 44. So it's been just really cool to see folks skill up and see people get second and third and fourth jobs because they've just really gone on to succeed. So that's been really fun. I already mentioned this, but again, please feel free to email me at shannon@code-u.org. I'll drop that in the chat later. If you are interested in getting connected with someone on our team, or if you need more information on any of the presenters today, I'm happy to share that. We have some exciting improvements on the way to our program. So we started using a program called Open Class with our latest cohort that is allowing us to do a bit more really customization with our curriculum, and our training team led by Tanya has done a fantastic job with that. So we're excited to produce some even more job-ready folks for you all down the road. We also are developing some new classes. So we're working on, in particular, an AI and cybersecurity courses. So we're excited to share more info on that as they get developed. Quick plug for mentors. I'm going to send some information about mentoring with your takeaways, the follow-up that you get tomorrow. Mentors are volunteers who help us throughout the classes. There are opportunities to volunteer anywhere from 5 to 20 weeks as part of a session. So I'll include more information for our employer partners in our takeaway, but we would love to have you as a mentor. And then finally, that takeaway tomorrow for our employer partners is going to include a folder of resumes from all of our participants today, links to our graduate databases that have more of our job seekers listed. I'll have our team's contacts there, but please, the reply goes to me. So if you need anything and aren't sure where to start, just reply and I will be happy to get you connected to what you need. So with that, we are going to go ahead and jump into our presentations for today. I'm so excited for you all to see what these students have been working on. We had practice sessions with them the last couple weeks, and I know I was really impressed with their projects, so I'm sure that you will be as well. Our first presenter is going to be Richard Danielovich. He is from the Louisville area and just completed the software development course. So with that, Richard, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you. I can see your screen, Richard, but I cannot hear you yet.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Shannon, and good afternoon to everybody who's joined. My name is Richard Danielovich, and my project is NoIT. So some quick things about me. I am located in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm currently a knowledge and onboarding supervisor at Marsh McLennan. I chose CodeU to expand my skill set. Most of my technical expertise is in technical troubleshooting, and I kind of wanted to expand my my know-how in terms of IT and kind of get into software development a bit. And CodeU seemed like a good opportunity to do that. Why did I choose to make NoIT? So in my current role, I'm a knowledge admin for the ServiceNow knowledge base. And I was inspired by knowledge bases like Confluence and ServiceNow in terms of their, their functionality and kind of the look and feel and all that stuff. And I wanted to try and emulate some of the logic or the features that make those sites as popular as they are. So overall, I thought it was a very eye-opening experience building my website and kind of getting into the logic of what makes some of the features and functionality of those websites like really great. So NoIT is a knowledge management application. It's designed to manage and organize articles within specific categories. This project provides functionality for users to browse articles by category, create new categories and articles, and edit or delete existing content. So only admins who are logged in can actually manage the content, so it's contextual based upon the login and the roles. And this is just kind of a picture of the landing page of the website. I used ASP.NET MVC model and coded it in C#. I have 3 controllers. One is for article management, one is for category management, and one is to manage the homepage and the user authentication. So API logic is implemented to manage the CRUD functionality and the data stored in my MySQL database. So a brief breakdown and some code snippets of some of the API logic for the categories. Here's like a basic one for category creation. A brief snippet of some of the logic that goes into the actual login on the homepage and some of the logic around deleting a category. Like I mentioned before, the views are contextually tied to login so that only an administrator will see buttons to create, edit, or delete articles and categories to kind of create that that same experience you would have in a popular knowledge base where it's very role-based and you're only going to see what you're provisioned for. So in the standard view, you can see the categories on the side and then hyperlinks for the individual articles with the login button here. And if you're logged in, you can see there's some new contextual buttons there to kind of manage the articles. You could create, you can delete, etc., and then you can log it back out. So I took my project a little beyond the scope of what it needed to be, and I used Docker to make an image, and I pushed a containerized version of my app to AWS, and I'm hosting that in my EC2 instance, which can be accessed via this link. So I'll just demo it really quick. So this is my website. This is the landing page. There's some popular categories. If you go, you can see that there's none of the buttons there or an admin. You can kind of look at the content, but you can't really do anything with it other than view it. So I'll go ahead and log in. And then you see you have the ability to edit, to manage categories. You can edit or delete articles. You can do it from within the actual article itself. So challenges and obstacles. One of the more significant issues I had was with database logic, specifically around model state errors. I wanted to make sure I had really robust data validation, but I also needed it to work. And I kept getting errors, or it would just throw very generic errors. So to overcome this, what I did was I implemented logging into my logic to output the exact location where the logic was failing, and then taking that output and searching on things like Stack Overflow and Google to kind of help narrow down what I needed to tweak in my logic to get it working. And this was incredibly effective and kind of helped me to understand how important robust logging can be to make your debugging more efficient, to save you time, and to kind of get the code to tell you what's wrong with it, without having to waste a ton of time like pulling your hair out and trying to figure out. Some of my biggest takeaways and what I learned from this is containerized web application deployment, learning how to use Docker, and then really learning AWS and using them together to launch my application into the web was a very fun experience, and I think a very practical experience. So the learning the ins and outs of AWS, and I mean, I've really only scratched the surface with it, was just a really eye-opening experience. Authentication and role-based access controls, using the login to kind of contextually change who can see what, and using roles really help to create that kind of authentic experience that you would expect from something like a knowledge base. And as far as developing and tweaking a good user interface and user experience, I really set out to make something that not only was very visually appealing, but also very easy to use and very intuitive. And so I kind of kept going back to that and just working on things like the color scheme, the layout, the HTML and the CSS to kind of make it so that if you pick a category, it highlights, or if I do this in a certain way, is it going to still look really well or really nice and very visually appealing? So that was something that was very rewarding to work on and to see that and to get feedback that suggested that was the case. So again, my name is Richard Danielovich. This is my contact information. I'll leave this here on the screen for a moment. And again, thank you to everybody that came today. This has been a really enriching experience for me to go through this and to kind of experience a different part of the technology field that I'm generally used to. It was outside my comfort zone. And I think that I like to solve problems, and I like to develop intuitive and kind of creative solutions to problems. And I would love the opportunity to continue to expand my skill set in different roles and opportunities.
Thanks so much, Richard. That was an excellent start. We appreciate you going first. I know that can always be a little scary, but that was great. Coming up next, we have Charnice O'Neill, who is from our Northern Kentucky region. Charnice is from Florence and participated in our UX second level course. I did see your screen
Sorry
for a
about that.
second there, Shanice.
Here it is. Okay, hello, my name is Sharnice O'Neill. I have a background in fashion design, retail, and front-end development. I recently earned a UX UI design certificate from CodeU. At the start of the project, our class used FigJam to brainstorm theme ideas. The top options were cats, cafe, and gaming. We decided on the name Pause and Play Cafe for our concept. My goal was to create an engaging and user-friendly platform that seamlessly combines with the love for coffee, cats, and gaming. I wanted my app to be inviting, cozy, and fun. During the market research, I noticed other cat cafes focused mostly on cats with coffee being secondary. None of the cat cafes I researched offered gaming. I also found the hero text wasn't easy to read, the main image was too busy, their apps also had more hippie granola feel. I wanted to incorporate the main themes the cafe offered: coffee, cat adoptions, and gaming. These illustrations showcase the steps I took to create the fun, vibrant, and cozy logo you see here. I created this brand guideline to stay consistent and to use it within my own app design. The brand guidelines evokes a fun, approachable, and modern vibe with a playful edge. I feel like the teal buttons paired with the white text improves readability and accessibility. I utilized the brand's primary typeface for headers to maintain consistency across platforms. The chosen typography mode Rhodium Libre enhances readability while staying true to the brand's modern, clean, and fun aesthetics. I narrow my choices down based on the the competitors' research, accessibility, and overall feedback for testers. The low fidelity wireframes. The changes I made to the low fidelity wireframes were centered around simplicity. My goal was to create a more streamlined, intuitive application with a focus on minimalism. I noticed that a lot of modern apps also place the logo on the far left. The first mock-up felt a bit flat. The brand name didn't stand out against the background image, and there was an overuse of light gray tones. To add more impact, I introduced dark hues to create contrast and depth. I also rounded the card corners to give the design a softer, more approachable feel. For the second mock-up, I tried a black background, but it felt too harsh, so I opted for a softer charcoal gray instead. To make the hero text stand out more, I added a transparent black band behind the white text for improved contrast. The final mock-up, accessibility was my key consideration when designing the color scheme and layout. I focused on ensuring high contrast, legible typography, and a clear visual hierarchy to make the interface easily navigable for all users, including those with visual impairments and accessibility needs. Overall, this landing page design offers a user-friendly experience across both desktop and mobile. By prioritizing clarity and simplicity, I made sure the brand logo and color usage scale correctly across different screen sizes, ensuring consistent brand experience on mobile and desktop interfaces. For the usability testing, I sent a list of questions to 2 users along with a link to the completed mockup. Questions like, What was your initial impression of the landing page? Or do you find the design visually appealing? Why or why not? Are the buttons and icons clearly identifiable? This here is the feedback from the surveys. User 1 felt an emotional connection with the words "our story" and "adopt." User 2 felt the look of the app was playful yet elegant, and also thought the logo was cute. Both users found the text easy to read and the visuals easy to understand. Conclusion. The things I'd change, I'll add a testimonial section to showcase successful cat adoptions and highlight positive customer experiences. The challenges was ensuring the contrast ratio met accessibility standards while still staying true to the brand colors. Overall, this project was an exciting challenge that allowed me to integrate skills from my background in fashion, photography, and retail into the design process. This presentation served as a highlight of my project due to time constraints. To explore the full case study from my Pause and Play Cafe, feel free to visit my portfolio page. I thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Sharnice. That was fantastic.
Okay.
We are off to such a strong start. And next up, we have Chloe Secretti, who is from our Louisville region, and Chloe completed our data analysis course.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. So my name is Chloe Secretti, and yeah, I did the data analytics track. And so for my project, I wanted to focus on my experience in healthcare. And so I am a current speech language pathologist. I work in rehabilitation and also in acute care in hospitals. And I'm in the informatics master's program. And so I wanted to kind of focus in on patient populations that I had the most questions about, and ended up landing on patients that have had very extended hospitalizations. So often these patients were on the surface healthy before their hospitalization, and then, got into the hospital, had a lot of things go wrong, and then have pretty lifelong illnesses after that, and also huge hospital bills. So I wanted to see if there was demographic information, if there was diagnoses, and also if there was some, rhyme or reason to hospital costs. So those were kind of my questions, and I start with definition. So I found that research said that 21 days and longer are considered extended or prolonged hospitalizations. And the quote unquote average hospitalization or hospital stay is 4.6. So I use between 4 and 5 days. For that's my variables. This is my data. This is from the New York Department of Health. I used a convenience sample of 10,000 entries for each consecutive year over the course of 2 years. And so you see here, this first few columns are demographic information. We have length of stay. And then we have charges and costs. So I calculated a new column to the far right. That is the charge to cost ratio as a way to kind of consider the length of stay and, the costs of extended hospitalizations while still, trying to control for it. And then for the diagnoses. So obviously all of this I used Python pandas. I did have to edit a few things. So for example, the diagnoses, I did filter out psychiatric diagnoses because they're just very different in nature and often extended, but kind of the subject of another.
Hello.
Analysis.
Hi, you've reached the computer support.
Okay. And so with this data, I created a Tableau dashboard. So with my dashboard, I had the variable here. So the length of stay, you can change. So this is representative of the average. So this is between 4 and 5 days. And this is the extended. So 21 to 117 was my max for the data. So for each graph, I did these are the most common diagnoses. And if you look up here on the diagnosis group, COVID and sepsis were the most common, and it was also true of the average. So I wanted to see if sepsis and COVID had a higher proportion in the extended stay compared to the average, which they did. The demographic information on the pie charts is pretty self-explanatory. And then the bottom right-hand graph is the charge to cost ratio. So if you see, there's a pretty significant variance, and it's much higher and prolonged compared to the average up here, which is under 2. So with that, I'll move on to the results. So I did find significant demographic differences. So in prolonged hospitalization, there were much higher percentage male, ages 50 to 69, Spanish, other race, Black, African American were all higher in percentage. Obviously, we saw that the charge to cost ratio showed significant variance, but also the ratio itself was much higher compared to the average. The diagnosis is maybe the most significant part of my results. So the higher proportions of sepsis and COVID compared to the average, but also the diagnoses such as respiratory failure, stroke, UTI, those are more acute conditions, and I found those were higher in the prolonged hospitalization compared to the average had more chronic conditions, which would be down here like the COPD, the osteoarthritis, and congestive heart failure. So I know I'm coming up on time. So really quickly, I would just say next steps would be repetition with the larger sample size, considering past medical history, looking at secondary, tertiary diagnoses to see how that comes into play. More statistical analysis to find significance between age group and diagnosis. And then I think, considering all of these things, if it was extensively studied, I think, it could result in a review of standard billing practices and maybe even protocols for prevention. So that is me. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions in the breakout room.
That was great. Thank you so much, Chloe. We appreciate you participating with us. Next up, we have Kenneth Quiggins. Kenneth is also from our Louisville region, and he completed our web development course. Kenneth, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name's Kenneth Quiggins. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm currently enrolled in Phoenix University. I graduate in April with a bachelor's in information technology. I love solving problems with code. I joined Code Louisville to continue to grow my skills as a developer and to network with other developers in Louisville. I built a Marvel Explorer. The technologies I've used was Next.js 14, Tailwind CSS, Neon Cloud Database, JS Docs to help document my code, and for me and for any other developer that comes across my code. I use GitHub projects because they have a Kanban board in there, so that I was able to work on the most important features. It helped me stay on track. I knew what needed to be done so that I could meet my deadline. A typical workflow that I went through was I would work on a feature branch, and when that feature was done, I would merge it into the main branch. And because I use Vercel, it would rebuild my project with the updates and deploy it to the web. Making a request with the Marvel API was probably the most difficult part, because you had to take a timestamp of the time of the request, take your public key and private key and concatenate them together and create a hash. So here you can see that I had 2 server actions. One was to return single character details. The other one was to return all character details. And I had a helper function called generate marble auth, where I was able to destructure the public key, the hash, and the timestamp, and then add it to my URL and send it with the request to get authenticated to the API. Over here, you could see that this is the basic structure of the JSON data that would come back, and I was able to parse through that and get the information I needed. Here's what my homepage looks like. It's just a basic homepage with the nav bar and a footer and a hero section. The main thing about this is I was able to find an actual Marvel font to use to kind of make it pop out a little bit. The gallery, it's mobile responsive. I have pagination on the end of the page, a search feature, and there was 20 results per page. The pagination and the search is controlled through state, and the search feature, I also use regular expressions to help search through the data. Each character card, I was able to get a name, a character image, description, the number of comic appearances, and attribution from the JSON data that came back. And the Learn More button goes to the comic appearances. So one problem I did have here is the Marvel API. A lot of the images were missing, so I had to create a default image and then find a way to see if there was no image available in there, which I was able to get a flag that was coming back from the JSON to find out if there was no image available and put a default image in. Comic appearances, when you click the Learn More button, you go to the comic appearances, and I had a scroll area component, and I used React icons for the book icon on here. One problem that I'm still working on with this is I'm only getting 20 results back also with the comic appearances. So I'm trying to find a way to implement that to get all, like if there's 250 comic appearances, to be able to get all that information into the scroll area. The contact form, I'm validating the name, the email, and the length of the message. The email, I'm using regular expressions there also. So you can see that if you don't put in a correct email address, it will not let you send a message. The error and the form validations are stored in state variables. That way I'm able to keep track of, what errors or anything that's not sent with the contact form. So I also have toast notifications to let you know that your message was sent successfully. Future plans for my app, I'm thinking to maybe add some authentication so people can log in and they can bookmark their favorite characters or whatever, and then maybe a discussion page so people can discuss, what they like about Marvel, or, just anything that people are interested in Marvel, like myself. I want to thank everybody for coming, and this is my contact information. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, or I'd be happy to talk tech with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. That was wonderful. Loved hearing about your Marvel project. We are in the home stretch here. So we are in our final 4 participants. Our next one is Chris Goodpaster. Chris is from Kenton County in our Northern Kentucky region, and Chris participated in our data analysis course.
Can you see that?
Looks great.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. My name is Chris Goodpaster. I made a online price tracker through on Amazon. Today we'll go over my introduction, a little bit about me, the project overview, the code details, some very specifics, how it works, a little demo of it, and then some challenges and how I overcame them, and then my next steps for the project. A little bit about me is I have a finance and banking background. I've done everything from retail banking to commercial lending, relationship management, treasury management, large corporate, audit, and underwriting. I picked CodeU because I wanted to get more into the data analytics aspect of finance and become a data, not a scientist, but a financial analyst. And I am starting my MBA in data analytics at Thomas More in May. My current role is a financial analyst at a catering company in Northern Kentucky. My price tracker, a little bit about it. It's pretty much you add a product that you want to track. It scrapes the web page for the price, the current price, It stores it, cleans the data, and then can spit it out in graphs and a spreadsheet. So some of the tools and libraries I use, web scraping. I use Beautiful Soup, scheduling for my automatic scheduler, and then SQL for the SQL aspect of it. And then this is a little bit of about how it works. We'll go into this a little more detail during the demo. So this is the user interface. So from top down, you just add the product nickname that you want to call it, the website, add product, set the scheduler. It can run as often as you want it to, and then check the prices for the last 48 hours, and then display the graphs. These are the 3 relevant graphs that I have currently. I can do a lot more of them, but I think these are the 3 most important. The price over the time since you've been tracking it, the last 48-hour change, and then the price over the last 48 hours. So those 3 I think are pretty relevant. And then here is just a quick demo of running the code. So you run the user interface pops up. Select whatever you want to copy from the website. So this is, in this case, it's pots and pans. Go back, add it to the code. Nickname first, which is pots and pans is what I called this. Copy and paste, add the product. Product's been added. And you can also delete products if you no longer want to track them. You can switch the scheduler every 1 minute, 1 hour, 3 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, or at specific times. Turn the scheduler on, it'll run on that time until you stop it, or you get banned from Amazon. Currently, you can see it in the background there, collecting the data from. I clicked the 48-hour price changes, so it will collect them and then pop up and tell you what the price changes are of all the products that you're currently pulling. I actually have that set to run now anytime you start the scheduler as well. It also cleans the data and puts it in a Excel file that I'll show you in a second. Then you open the graphs, and this can live generate whatever graphs that whatever we have running currently. So again, same 3, history, price history, last 48 hours, and then the price change. And this is what the Excel file looks like after it's been cleaned. Currently, I'm up to over 600 individual lines of data. I've been running this since probably January 1st or something like that, every single day, trying to make sure it works. Sometimes I get banned, sometimes I don't. This you can put into Tableau or Power BI and customize your sheets in whatever you want to put up with the graphs. A couple of the challenges: the web scraping, the anti-bot logic was a hard one. Making sure you didn't get banned from Amazon. If you run it every minute for more than 3 minutes, Amazon will shut you down. The scheduler was pretty tough to make it work while the UI user interface was working. And then figuring out the cleaning data in the JSON file were a lot of fun. My next steps for this, I'd like to try to generate weekly PDFs that sent out to users for changes in historic data, API for more historic data, real-time alerts. So if something drops below a certain price, you get an email or a text message or something, or just a notification on the computer. Multi-source, I'd like to be able to add other websites in and choose which ones you want to use. Online capability, I'd like to be able to activate this for my phone or a remote location. And then here's my contact info. So that's it. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Chris. That was awesome to see. And Chris was our last data analysis project, and now we are going to hear from our, we still have 3 more, but our final software dev project. We have Jeremy Moore from Lee County in the Eastern Kentucky region.
Thanks for the introduction, Shannon. A little bit about me. I've been a game developer for about 15 years now. I've used game engines mostly, but I've been wanting to branch out into software development. And That was actually how I found Code U, and the skills I got from that class helped me a ton. And it helped me build the project that I'm going to be showing today, which is the Map Builder API. And it's an API to make game development with OpenStreetMap easy. And if you're unfamiliar with what OpenStreetMap is, it's basically like Google Maps, except the data is freely accessible and freely editable. The features of Map Builder is that it curates OpenStreetMap data for specific purposes. It stores the data in a database once retrieved, so it doesn't have to keep querying OpenStreetMap over and over again. And it has a web page front end where you can configure how it curates the data and also how it draws the maps on the front end. The reasons I made Map Builder was because OpenStreetMap can be overwhelming, especially if you're a beginner and only have made games before. And games I've made in the past could have benefited from it. This game on the right here is a game I made years ago called GPS Survival. And originally I wanted to use OpenStreetMap data for the world, but at the time I couldn't figure out how to get it to work. And I've always wanted to go back and re-tackle the issue of it. And finally, I want games I make in the future to benefit from it, and also other people's as well. The main source of data that Map Builder gets from OpenStreetMap is going to be nodes and ways. And what nodes are is they're the location of something. They're basically a point on the map. And if it's a single node, it's usually something smaller, for example, a street sign. And ways are a collection of nodes, and they represent the shape of something larger. As in the demonstration here, it's buildings and a road. With these two bits of information, we can already start piecing together maps. But you may wonder how it knows to color the buildings gray and the river blue. And that's where the next bit of information comes in. It's tags, and it gives a description of a node or a way. So we got two examples here, and as you can see, it brings quite a bit of information back. But usually, or almost always, you can figure out what a feature is just with a single tag. And in this instance, it would be these two tags. And as it's saving information to the database, I needed to keep it manageable. And to do that, I use something called cells. And cells are a part of a library called S2 geometry. And what it does is it represents the globe as a grid of cells. So whenever I'm saving nodes to the database, I also keep a reference to the cell that it's located in. So when I'm drawing maps, I can get the nodes that are within the area that I'm drawing a map of. So this is the first screen of Map Builder I'm going to be showing. It's the feature settings. It can be accessed with this button here. And we'll get the example from earlier. And what it's going to do is it's going to go through the tags of the feature, and it's going to compare the key and the value. And if both of them match up, it'll assign a top to it, and it'll give it this name, which in this case is water. This is the draw settings page. It can be accessed with this button here. And this is where you can tell it how you want it to draw the maps, like for specific tops. So you, in the top name, you put what top it is, and then you can use these properties, and you can change the order that it draws it in or the color of it. And even though it has a front end, it's mainly to be used as an API. So if you're using it as an API for a game, this is the kind of data you'd be seeing. It would have a list of cells that would have the cell ID, the unique cell token, and then it would have a list of the node and way objects. And using this information, you'd be able to build a map out of it. So let's go ahead and demonstrate and draw some maps. So this is the home screen. This is what'll first come up if you run it. And it gives information for every page, but for right now, we're just going to go generate some maps. We got some presets here. These are just some example locations. We're just going to do the first one because it's the fastest. And we're going to do a level 15. The higher the level, the smaller the map is going to be. Level 15 cells are what the database uses to store the info. So it's about 900 square feet. and we'll go back and generate a bigger one. And it's getting the cells from the database right now, and then it'll start drawing it. And so that first cell we drew, it was located down here. It's very small. This map here was generated using 1,186 cells. So it makes the larger maps out of the level 15 cells. And we're limited on time. So I went ahead and pre-rendered a lot of the example locations. I used HTML canvas to draw the maps, and you could do a lot more if you was actually using it in a game. You could make a system that makes 3D buildings and puts 3D trees down and stuff like that. And also, I made different themes for it, as you could see there. It wasn't all the same color and stuff. That's what the draw settings page was for. Thank you all for your time. If you want to check out any games I've made, my website is pseudosparkgames.com. If you want to play around with Map Builder yourself, my username on GitHub is serial-hugger. And if you need to get in contact for anything, my email is jeremymorework@gmail.com. Thanks again, and y'all have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. I know we get a lot of interest from students about game design, so it's really cool to see how you were able to work that in and to include some of your past projects. Thanks for presenting. Now we have James Smith, who is from Clay County in our SOAR region. James participated in one of our second level courses, the QA course.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Hello, everybody. My name is James, and my project is called Orange HRM Tests. And it's a little bit different than the other projects that have been presented so far today, and I'll get to why that is in just a moment. But first, a little bit about me. I have an Associate of Applied Science degree in Computer and Information Technology, and I was focused primarily on computer programming during that coursework. Most of my work experience has been in retail, but my heart is in tech, so I'm actually really looking forward to getting that first job in tech and making that career transition. Outside of coding, I love to read fantasy and sci-fi novels. I like to draw, and I occasionally mess around with 3D programs like Blender and do some 3D modeling. And quality assurance is the third pathway that I have completed with CodeU. The previous two were web and software development, and I knew nothing about what QA was before I went into this pathway, and it ended up being my favorite. I absolutely loved the whole process. So about the project, my project again is called Orange HRM Tests, and it's different from the others in that the other pathways have you come up with a project idea and build that project yourself. But in quality assurance, we were given a live website, which in this case was a demo of a product called Orange HRM, a full-featured HR management application, and we were given a set of 7 manual test cases and pretty much told, figure out how to automate these tests so that we can speed up the whole process of testing them. And I ended up loving the thing, so I made nearly double the tests required. We had to do 7, and I did 13. And all of our tests were written using C# in the Selenium WebDriver. And I had to approach these using black box and exploratory testing. And what that means is that I had no prior knowledge of this website before we started writing these tests. I didn't have any access to the code, nothing, no design documents, none of that. So I had to approach it essentially from a user standpoint and use my prior knowledge of other applications to figure out how I might be able to write the tests that were required. And I really enjoyed this particular project because it was working on writing tests for a real world application. The site's live, anyone can go look at it at any time, and anyone can also change anything on it at any time. And that presents its own series of challenges because everything is dynamic. You can't code to any specific usernames, you can't go to any kind of specific employee names, nothing, because it may change in the next 5 seconds. And one particular challenge that came up with that is that during testing, I was writing some tests and they were passing, and all of a sudden they weren't. And I was like, what is going on? So I ran them a few times to find out what was happening. Still failed every time. And I went to the website myself to see what was going on. And it ends up that someone had changed the entire site's language to Chinese. I didn't even know you could change the site's language, so that was a bit of a surprise. But once this happened, I ended up having to code in some tests and some checks myself before every test ran. I said, okay, let's find out how to change this language. And whenever you start your tests, go ahead and check to see if the site's in English. If it is, continue with your test. If not, change the site's language back to English and then proceed with the tests. So let's look at one of these tests. We're going to check and see if we can upload a file. In this case, we're going to upload a picture of a cake, and we'll just have it walk through that process. And it's pretty quick. It's the last time I ran the test, it only took about 12.8 seconds. So let's see if it can do it in that same amount of time this time. So it walks through the whole process of logging in, navigating to the page, uploading the file, checks to see if the file's there, deletes it, and closes the application. And there we have a green check mark, which means that the test passed, so it's all good. We were able to actually upload the file. And here's the code that actually performs what we just saw. The test itself is called can upload file. It takes a file name and it takes an expected file type. For us, we did the cake. It was an image or a JPEG. Tests are laid out in an arrange, act, assert format. We arrange the data, so we set up what we're expecting to use before the test runs. Here we need an attachment data, we need an attachment card, and we're going to use the current date to compare to later. Then we actually perform the test, so we navigate to the page, we upload the file, we wait until the record count is displayed, so that the record count is the number of actual files that have been uploaded to that user's data, and then we get the attached file data for the file name that we just uploaded. Then the assert phase is where the test actually tests to see if the things we expect to happen are happening. So do we have attachment data and attachment card? Are they not null? Is the attachment data added by our administrator because that's who it logs in as automatically? Is the attachment type what we expected it to be? In this case, it's an image or a JPEG. And is the attachment data's date added equal to the current date? If so, the test passes. We delete the current record that we just uploaded and we continue from there. So what are the benefits of having a quality assurance team or someone like myself on your team? Obviously, better quality products. You're going to have people that are checking to make sure that your products are working as the customers would expect them to and that they're performing well. And having a QA engineers who can automate your tests is going to give you faster feedback, which is going to speed up your development cycles, because when your developers check in changes, targeted tests can be run and you will know within minutes, if not seconds, whether or not anything broke during that change. And last but not least, they can save you a whole lot of money. A defect found in the first stages of a product's development is between 30 and 100 times less expensive than finding and fixing that same bug in production. So we can definitely be something of value to you there. And I know this was a quick overview of everything. If you have any other questions about the project or you want to see any of my other code or the test run, please drop into my breakout room after the class. Thank you very much for coming. All my contact information is on the screen. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, James. That was fantastic. Enjoyed seeing that. Well, we are in the final countdown. So we have our very last presenter today. We have Rhiannon Gray, who is from Barberville, Kentucky, in our Eastern Kentucky region, and she's going to present her project from her web development course. And Rhiannon, I see your screen okay, but I'm not hearing you yet. If you've started.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was lagging just a little bit. I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Rhiannon from Barberville, Kentucky. Really, really small town. I'm a mom of 4. One of my children has autism. And that's kind of one of the reasons that I created this. But I joined CodeU as a complete beginner. I wanted to get look into getting more skills to get a more technical job. I currently work with GDIT at the VA Technical Help Desk, and I'm a graduate student at Eastern Kentucky University getting my applied behavioral analysis. So that's just a little about me. Why Moodscapes? This quote right here: where words fail, music speaks. It's been found to help people that are autistic or do not communicate traditionally. I designed this with those people in mind. I wanted it to be a mood-driven and responsive music experience that focuses on accessibility, because many that are mostly accessible websites, they're very plain due to issues that people have with those kinds of things. It's got, we use free sound, and it was built with HTML, CSS, and plain vanilla JavaScript. This is part of our visualization. It's the particle system is complicated, and we have dynamic star generation because I use the cosmic theme, and it has custom particle physics implemented. This is just a little snippet of the code. I had the colors that all throughout be like uniform so that it wouldn't be glaring against anything, and they're kind of muted like a nebula color in space. And it's got real-time rendering for that. This is the shooting stars, which is part of our background. This is just how they are generated. They're, like I said, I use the color palette, and it scales across all devices. For my mode selection category generation, it does real-time mood tag updates and has a custom state management system. And the API query, as you see, is in text as well as emoji because we have toggles, and it uses music and ambient sounds as well, and that is also a toggle. So whichever you prefer for text or emoji or music or ambient sound, you just click a button and it will query with that. And that, I hope to add, I'm going to add more moods to that at a later time. I just didn't have time. It's got 9, I think. This is the toggle state updates for the text and the emoji. It has a responsive button layout. It's just a quick toggle, and I'll demonstrate that in just a moment. And the biggest technical challenges I had for this was the Z-index layering because of all the different layers and architecture of the program. And everything had to be its own and had to be specifically positioned. It should be compatible across all browsers, last I tested. And this is just a little code snippet of that kind of layer management that I had to go through for those types of things, for like the shooting stars. And we use the document elements. And in audio visual, it was the particles in my canvas for when the music is playing. It is responsive, and it does real-time frequency analysis as whatever music or sound you are listening to plays, as it displays the information. And this is just some of the code for that. It was hard to pick which code was most important. I thought it was all important. For future development, I hope to add a fully back end and be able to OAuth with Spotify, being able to log into the site and save a specific playlist that's generated and be able to come back and play it as you want. And offline mode support, and be able to do podcasts as well as music and ambient sound. And I will show you, this is the website. It's got a little how-to here at the top. You just choose your mode, select your mood, and just let it play. So if you select music journey and text, when you scroll down here, you can select anything you want. Go deep sleep, and it will select a mood, start to play. And I built the visualizer in Canvas, and all the buttons and everything are functional. It will stop and it will go to the next song, and it real-time generates the movements of the particles on the canvas as you play. And if you scroll back up and you prefer an emoji, they are also down here. And you can select anything you want, and it will do the same thing, and it will create. And it kind of it does both. So, and its sound is the same way. You can do it text, and you can do it emoji, and I built them in like cards with moods and then sub moods, and that's how it pulls from that free sound API. And I guess that's about it for me. And thank you all for being here. And thank you.
Thanks so much, Rhiannon. And thank you to all of our presenters. Those were some fantastic projects. I know our team, our careers team that I lead comes on near the end of folks' experience with us. So it's always really cool to see the presentations and the demos once they're wrapped up with their class. I know they've been working really hard. So like I mentioned at the beginning, we are going to put each of our presenters into a breakout room. In our employer attendees, you are welcome to self-assign to one of those breakout rooms so you can talk more to our presenters. I know we also have some students on the call and like staff members. My ask would just be please feel free to join a room, but let the employer be able to connect with the students as much as possible. We'll bring folks back in about 20 minutes. I'll send a warning around 4:20 to let you all know. But if you drop after this, thank you all again so much for attending, and for our employers, we'll have a follow-up being sent out to you tomorrow.